Well, it's a good evening, folks. Radio FM 88 Australia, broadcasting from the studios here in Brisbane, Australia. Unfortunately, Andrina couldn't make us tonight, so she's having the day off. And but our guest is coming in from the United States, and so without further ado, it's my esteemed pleasure to welcome Nancy to our show here on Radio FM 88. It's a good evening and it's good morning to you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, so what a strange quirk of fate that Nancy, you live in the States, but you actually did live here in Australia, and particularly just up the road in Mount Mee. And what a passion you've got asking for disclosure. I mean, people have woken up to X-Files with Chris Carter all those years ago. I mean, the mystery of life itself, and you seem to be at the forefront of it.
Yes, this has been a lifelong goal for me. Basically, it all started from at 2 years old, or my first conscious memories, and my whole life has been a building of teaching me, getting me prepared, having visitation with positive interdimensional beings and positive extraterrestrials, getting me prepared to basically be a spokesperson and correct misinformation, answer questions that people might have as to why they are here now, why this time is important, who was visiting here before, why do some people feel like they were abducted, answers to a lot of these questions they wanted me to understand and to be able to help people with, because they are not the same beings that are here now. They're waiting for us to accept that we're not alone in the universe, and we're part of a bigger plan. We're being invited to be part of the cosmic realm, and it's an open invitation. And basically, they've just been waiting all this time for humanity to wake up and to realize, reach higher consciousness, and realize our uniqueness in who we are and what we can give to the cosmic realm. And they're here to assist. They're not here to take. They're not here to use or anything like that. So basically, I'm a spokesperson, I guess, for them.
Now, you've got some multimedia sites. I mean, obviously, you've got the Facebook social media platform, and you've also got your website as well as a form of introduction for people coming through. All they've got to do basically is to hit the word time for disclosure, and they can come on forth.
Yes, I have platforms in each. The Facebook group is called Time for Disclosure. We've never been alone. I also like to say we're the ones the world has been waiting on, and we are the disclosure. And then my website is timefordisclosure.com. And on both, there's forums where people can interact with each other and ask each other questions. And it's a safe place for experiencers to go and to talk about their experiences and to share information back and forth. And I try to provide links for people to find good information on outlets of like meetings or organizations that work with experiencers. OPUS, OPUS is one. They work with experiencers and help guide them into finding places to meet, and with therapists if they want to go that route. So then there's on Facebook, there's UAP Medical Coalition. People can get together there. And my goal is to be as big a part into that as possible, because I want to be a person to speak out and to let people understand the real reasons to why this is all happening now and what it means to humanity and how important this is.
So one of your first, am I correct? You actually worked for the Department of Defense. Is that Department of Defense in the United States or Department of Defense in Australia?
Yes. My name is Nancy Thames. It's pronounced like the Thames River in England. A lot of people mess it up and call it Thames, but I don't really care. But and I did work for the Department of Defense, and that was a wonderful experience for me. I got to live in Hawaii on Schofield Barracks and learned a lot about. I was in the dental profession. I learned a lot about radiology and things that have helped me now later in life. And I also worked at Fort Benning, Georgia on post and it was just a great experience. It had nothing to do with extraterrestrials. That was totally me on my own, seeking experience and getting the opportunity to travel different places and be exposed to different walks of life and have an understanding of different cultures and how they feel about things, particularly things about extraterrestrials. So again, I think that all my life that the interdimensionals and extraterrestrials, the positive extraterrestrials, have guided me throughout my life into different places of living and different experiences to make me who I am today. And so that I can hold my head high with pride and feel comfortable with the things that I tell people, because I speak from the heart and I tell the truth.
Well, it's very rare today,
Yeah.
particularly in the world of politics and big business.
Well, it's very needed. We're at the pivotal moment for humanity. We can make several choices, being good or bad. We're getting exposed to AI technology, and the decisions that we make with that is instrumental on our futures, not only for us, but for future generations. And how we engage extraterrestrials and interdimensionals and understand that they're not here to take over. They are not here to change our lives drastically, but they do want to assist us. That's the word that is important here, is assist us in making wise choices about our futures with technology and with ways that we live, because most of the way that we've been programmed since we've been born no longer serve us. All of our religion and our banking systems, a lot of those things are breaking down on their own, just because with technology coming and with change, things are breaking down. And we're at a pivotal moment. This is the biggest thing that's ever happened to human beings since our very beginning of existence. And it's important that we have a little guidance, because extraterrestrials and interdimensionals have been around billions of years ahead of us in evolution. This is nothing new to them. It is totally new to us, but this is nothing new to them. They have seen civilizations throughout the universe come and go, and some of them have made good decisions, some of them have not, and they've even made some mistakes themselves. So they see us as children, and we are descendants of them. They consider us family, and they love us. They consider us their children. But the main thing that they love is our planet. They love planet Earth. Planet Earth to them is a living conscious being, and they see it as a living conscious being with great respect. And they frown upon the fact that humans, we take our planet for granted. We abuse it. We don't understand our connection. We've lost our connections. Most of the older indigenous tribes throughout history always knew their connection to the planet, their connection to the world, their connection to the universe, the connection to plants, animals, all living beings on our planet. Humans have, for some reason, kind of forgotten this. So they're here now to help us to wake up and remember we are all connected. We are all one. When we take off our human suits, we're all energy beings, and we all look alike, and we are all connected. And everything that we do here on Earth affects the whole universe. It ripples out and affects the universe. So when we play with weapons of mass destruction, nuclear weapons, not only does that could wipe us out, which is terrible in that fact, but the main thing is that it disturbs the balance of nature. It disturbs our planet, and our planet and everything on our planet is living conscious beings. And what we do, they will suffer from it. So we need to recognize our connections, and that what we do affects everything. And it even affects extraterrestrials and interdimensionals, because it ripples into space. So, and we're at a point now, we're all waking up. Hopefully we're going to get it this time.
This time, okay. Hey, I'm just going to bring up the Facebook page so that people know what they're looking for when they go and find you.
Yeah, that is the Facebook page.
That's the coding up the top.
That was actually a picture taken in New Zealand. Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. I went to New
Is that in the
Zealand and
South
went to that
Island?
observatory. Yeah. And it's open to the public. Anybody's welcome. I throw out trolls. We do get some. I won't lie about that. I just like to be truthful about things. There is people that come in there for the right reasons, and occasionally we'll get one that just wants to pick at people, and I remove them. So I try to keep it a safe space for people to interact, learn things, and get the right information, because we've been lied to so much, and it's time for people to know the truth. We need to understand our heritage, where we came from. We need to understand things about our planet that we have been lied to and denied the facts about. So our history should really be rewritten. So there's a lot of things that hopefully through disclosure will come to light, and people will learn the truth about our true nature and what our heritage, where we come from.
I tell you, this was an interesting story. This Gary McKinnon. I mean,
Oh yeah, I
youngster
put a
in
bunch of
England
stories in there. Yes,
that's
you
phenomenal.
know,
How
he
he
found
got
a
in
lot
there
of
and
information, and he had to leave our country because he put so much information out there. They wanted to get a hold of him, and so, you know, I put as much out there, and if Facebook tells me we don't, that goes against our standards, I just like, okay, no big deal. I'll try another way, you know. So we just keep putting it out there, and if they take it or remove it, no big deal. You know, there's always more stories. There's so much to learn. Yeah.
had Elena. What an interesting woman she is. Her background in archaeology, and also the relationship that she had with Thor, isn't it? I tell you, it's such a fantastic subject, isn't it? I mean, people somehow or another, the depth of, like, watching Star Wars, Star Trek, Stargate, to the X-Files, to Project Blue Book, even to the Martian, Interstellar, all these different mind opening, is that what you would call it? Mind opening
Oh yeah.
event horizons. Yeah.
And what's really strange is that all this information has always been there for there, and extraterrestrials are not hiding from us. They've left information here. We just didn't understand it, or we've been lied to about where it came from or what it was. And that was part of a programming that was done intentionally to keep humanity dumbed down, because we have been controlled like little puppets. And the fact that when we reach higher intelligence, they can't control us. So they put toxins in our air and our food, in our waters. So because they can control us better that way. And when I say government, it's not necessarily government. There's higher groups over our governments that are, I consider, elite, that are like manipulate our governments around to their best interest, not humanity's best interest. And so that's why we get denied a lot of things. And that's why also I think they've sit on a lot of technology that should be open to all of us. We should not be using fossil fuels. We should have free energy. We should not have poverty. We should not have any diseases. There's cures for everything. From what I've been told, when they designed when our planet was designed, everything we ever needed was placed here on Earth. We just either are sitting on it or we haven't found it yet. So that means all those things in the jungles and things that we have not even found, there's an answer to all our problems out here for us. It was all designed for us.
So you mentioned they treat us as children. So basically, you're saying is that the planet is our nursery, our crib. It's got all our toys.
It is in a lot of ways. They've sit there and watched us, and and they've been waiting for us to reach this moment in time. And that's why it's so important right now, is because everywhere you look, everywhere you read, people are talking about higher consciousness. Everything is about reaching higher consciousness, higher vibrational frequencies. The higher frequency, the higher vibration, the more we become more intelligent, the more we're around of things going on our planet around us. extraterrestrials are in our skies. They are not hiding from us. We simply cannot see it because we live in a 3D world. And with our 3D limited vision, there's things going on all around us. We just don't see it. Plants and stuff communicate. We don't see it. That doesn't mean it's not happening. It just means that we're not at the conscious intellectual level to see the change yet. But that's changing. We are all going to reach higher consciousness, and we're all going to be aware of all these things around us. And it's going to be so magnificent. And we're going to think that really and truly it's going to be so subtle that we're going to think that our lives have always been like this. And when people ask me, how do you know when you get to like the fourth dimension or fifth, whatever, these are not physical places. These are levels of higher consciousness. So interdimensional, dimensional beings and things, they're a higher level of consciousness. So once we reach these levels, and we're getting there, we're going to see more, experience more. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. We have everything in the world to look forward to. It's the greatest time to be alive, and we're all a part of it, and we are all the disclosure. I think it's just beautiful.
Hey, obviously, in the early days, things would come out about the Bermudan Triangle and there'd be other sort of abductions and so forth. And you might have had visitations, or you might have had dream states, and there's like nightmares or whatever you want to call it and such. But there's was there for you an awakening there that if you mention anything, you'd get ridiculed or you get
I don't mind.
When you were young,
when I was young, I was told not to talk about these things, and extraterrestrials and interdimensionals told me, you will know when it's the right time. And basically they told me at a very young age that this was a process of having the human experience as a process of learning about things and growing into this. This is a spiritual awakening. When I say spiritual awakening, I'm not talking about our per se religions, but I'm talking deep down spiritually inside, an inner knowing of who our inner self is and realizing who we are. But they've always told me, and I consider myself a contactee. I am not an abductee. I've never been abducted. I do understand there's people that have had different experiences than me, but my experiences started at birth and continue till this day. And they showed me visions of myself. When I asked them, I need to know who I am. I need to understand why this is happening to me. And I also needed to understand why it was happening to my two sons, because I visibly saw them being taken for their first times when they were just little wee boys. So, and they showed me visions and opened my subconscious up and showed me visions of myself making the decision to have the human experience and come here and be here at this time to help and assist humanity. This is something that has been going on throughout the galactic realm for a long time. They knew this day was coming. Even people in our government has known these days were coming. And this is just basically a preparation, and I was part of the preparation, and so are my sons. So people that I do believe that some people were abducted. I think that they were different beings that were here for a different agenda. There is some negative extraterrestrials and that came here at a time and worked with governments and made traded technology for certain experiments that they wanted to do, genetic experiments and whatnot. And when this group of extraterrestrials made this decision, they lost their contact with the positive and interdimensional beings because they were no longer a part of the collective consciousness within that realm, and they were considered renegades. They were on their own down here creating havoc for humanity, which in their eyes they didn't think they were doing anything wrong, because it's really no different than what our zoos do or hunters do when we go out and tag animals. So they saw it as a genetic experiment, but they also did not care how a human being comprehended that. They didn't care if it scared you. They didn't care if you understood that it was not a bad thing or if you misinterpreted it. They did not care. All they cared about was their task at hand and doing their agenda. So that's unfortunate that is kind of like the first aspects that humanity had of finding out about these extraterrestrials. But when the positive extraterrestrials and interdimensionals realized that humanity as a whole, all over the world, were starting to wake up and reach higher consciousness, they came in great numbers into our solar systems and galaxies and started coming in motherships. And they told what I consider the negative lower rim to leave us alone, to get out of the way, that they've had their fun, they've done their little tests, whatever, to get out of the way, that they are here now. And they're the ones that are here, and they have surrounded our galaxy planets in spreading love, energy, putting frequencies into around, helping us, encouraging us to be good, encouraging us to be better beings, encouraging us to excel and finally reach who we're supposed to be, who we are, because we are very unique and we have a lot of things in our DNA that has never been tweaked. And a lot of things kept us dumbed down, keeping our pineal gland crystallized, unusable, keeping us dumbed down because they could control us. But now we're reaching the point. Everybody's going to wake up and realize, hey, we're not going to live in this slave system. We're not going to be manipulated and work our butts off from 9 to 5, paying taxes, doing this and that. And by the time we're able to retire, we're so unhealthy, we don't get to enjoy our lives. So they're going to help teach us how we can enjoy our lives and also how we can use technology to better humanity, not just the few elites, and not, it has to be used in the right way. And what they told me, technology is a man-made tool. It was made and programmed by men. We have to stay in charge of it. We designed it. We have the intelligence. We have to be in charge of it. We should never turn it loose with certain individuals. We should never turn it loose and let it operate on its own. It's a man-made tool and we need to keep it that way.
Right. So your information that you're getting is, have you had an actual manifestation, like Star Trek?
I have face-to-face physical contact, physical contact with them all my life. And as I've gotten older, I am more conscious. When I was young, and if I would get fearful, they would black me. They would tap me and put me in a kind of in a subconscious. I could walk around and I was functional, but when I would come back to home, they put me in bed. When I would wake up, I would have fragmented memories. But now I have full conscious memories of our interactions. And they taught my son and I back in September, we went to Mexico. And they wanted us to go there to be an indigenous tribe that lived up in the mountains called the Zapotec. And so we flew into Mexico City and went to a state called Huataco. And it was a little city up in the mountains. It took us 3 hours to get up there. And they wanted us to meet an indigenous tribe. And they wanted us to understand that they were a dying race and they were on the verge of their ascension, but it fell through. So they wanted my son and I. My son spent a lot of time with these indigenous people and went on long walks in the forest and learned a lot of things. And for me, I'm not as physical active as my younger son. I'm 63 years old, so I'm kind of limited on certain things that I can do. I don't go run marathons or anything like that anymore. So for me, I walked outside and I was in a cabin and they took their hands out and said, and spread it wide open and said, everything is alive. Everything is alive. And they looked at me and they said, trees are living beings. Plants are living beings. Everything is alive. Everything has a consciousness. Everything, the planets, the stars, the sky, everything is a living being and has a consciousness. And we are one. We are one and we are all connected. And so they showed me visions of plants talking, and that the tree was standing there laughing at us because the tree was laughing, saying, "You run around cutting us down, yet we give you the air that you breathe to survive. You could not live without us." And not a whole lot you can say to that. And so they showed me many, many visions, and they did to my son. But it was just one son, and I went to this trip, and that was to outside of Mexico City. So they really made sure that I've had a lot of experiences and one-on-one information. I'm a person that I have to physically see things and physically experience things so that I can speak from the heart and feel confident about it. And they make sure it happens that way for me. I'm very fortunate, and I know that. I have physically held hands and caressed their face, and they have me. And I know that before I came here as a human, that I was a interdimensional being before I came here, and so were my children. And we decided to come here and assist and help humanity for this big process. It's a worldwide phenomenon, and it's a very important step for humanity. And,
all the things that you spoke about, we're on the same page as you. We've had Holly Hunter from the UK, the woman who talks to trees.
wow.
That same sequence of what you just spoke about. And then up in the northern part of Italy, there's a Damaha community who dug into the mountainside and created all these temples there, and it's got all the history of mankind. It's all been painted into those different rooms. And but they came up with a concept where you can put electrodes on plants with a synthesizer and a speaker on it. So they actually have a concert there of the singing of the plants, and so they put the instruments on all the plants, and then they all sit back and wait for the plants to sing.
Our science has already proved all these things, and if anybody wants to look it up, it's easy. You can Google these things and find out. It may not be known mainstream, but these things are real, and more of these things are going to occur, and we're going to become more aware of. And I guess one reason why they wanted me to go to Australia too is to be around your Indigenous, the Aboriginals. I have a lot of their art, and I went to a lot of Kakadu and a lot of different places, and experienced dream time and saw those things, and they had a connection with being from the stars and stuff. So I found that very, very fascinating, because so many Indigenous groups understood their place and understood about our solar system and astronomy, and knew these things, and they had to have gotten this information from star beings. And most of the Americans the same way.
Yeah, exactly right. Was it Prophecy Blue Star or something from the Navajo? I'll just come back here. Just hang on a sec. So you mentioned Uluru and all that.
Yes.
Which is just here.
I've done a lot of drawings of Uluru. I have a fascination with that
American
place.
Pine Gap.
And I'd like to go to that.
And you got a lot of crystal.
Yes, I think crystals are very important. There's a lot of things, I think our oceans are very important. Why we haven't tapped more into what's going in our oceans, because I do know extraterrestrials and interdimensionals have bases in our ocean, and there's a lot of activity, and there's so much of our oceans that they've never explored, and around y'all are surrounded. Australia is surrounded by all this, so there's probably all kinds of things going on there. It's amazing. I spent some time in New Zealand. That's a beautiful place too, and I learned a lot about the Maori people, and and I find it fascinating. All these cultures, they all go back to star beings, and I had some mention of it in their culture. Yeah.
Yeah, well, the Maoris are more into the like the Hawaiians into the Pleiades.
Yeah.
The Seven Sisters.
And somewhere around New
we had
Zealand, there is a lost continent. I forgot the name of it, but there's a lost continent. They can see it under the water. I can't think of the name of it, but there's like a lost continent somewhere around in New Zealand too. That's very interesting. I would love to go diving somewhere around through there and see what they could find down there. That would be amazing. Yeah.
True. Moving on, we had a lady, she was got a doctorate, PhD, and she was to deal with mycelium network with tree roots as well as the fungi. And so everything that you've just been espousing about, there are individual teachers out there who bring in that awareness to us as humanity. The question is, are we open to receive it? And so, as you mentioned before, we are the disclosure. You know,
we really are.
Yeah, you don't realize it until we had this conversation.
And the thing is, when we finally realize this, we don't need the governments to tell us. We will already know. You know, we will know more than they know. So that's why I think we are the disclosure. It's humanity waking up and realizing who we are and what we are capable of doing and our importance and the beautiful part that we can become part of the cosmic realm and better our lives for us and for our future generations after us. And we're kind of like the stepping stones. And I think we'll go down in history as being the age of the people that finally woke up and created the stepping stones for all of our future generations. I think that will be written in history. I really do. It's a very important thing for us.
So just backtracking, what stopped the Mexican tribe from ascending?
The Zapotec, they have always had a understood their connection with nature. And what happened to the Zapotec is that as they started growing, and they lived on this mountain called San Jose de Pacifico is the little mountain. And when they all got to a certain age, rather than staying within their community and building it, they got interested in technology and got interested in material things. And all of their younger generation pretty much abandoned the tribe and went to bigger cities like to Mexico City. And then from Mexico City went off to other places because of they wanted to try living a different way of life. They are an indigenous tribe. They're as old as the Mayans and Incas, and they are very primitive in a lot of ways. Some of them have electricity, some do not. Some have cell phones, some do not. Some have a computer, some do not. And they're at the top of a mountain. So the nature plays a lot into whether they have electricity. The whole week I was up there for pretty much the first part of the whole week. I was there for 7 days. For 5 days, we were without electricity. And it's amazing. These people, they go on about their day. If they're a restaurant, they go on and they learn to adapt with nature. Whatever happens, they have the backup plan. Life goes on. Little markets stay open. I'm not talking about shopping centers like you would see in a bigger city, but I'm just talking about little community areas. Like you have a lot of mom and pop shops in Australia. So I'm talking about things like this. But if they didn't have electricity, then they were getting the logs and building a fire and cooking and providing for people, maintaining and keeping their city alive and open. So it was very interesting being in America in a suburban area. You know, we take so much for granted. You know, there's so much in the world that we don't know about. And when we live in our areas, everybody has the internet, everybody has cell phones, everybody has this, that, and the other. And, you know, it's amazing. It's amazing that sometimes, you know, you need to see other walks of life to understand and appreciate the things that you do have. And also to understand there's a lot that you can do without if you have to.
True.
Yeah.
So basically, for that tribe, the elder generation of they're probably the ones who did the ascension, and then the other
Yeah.
generations that often walked away.
Yeah.
To take
It
on.
fell through as far as the whole group, because that's the way ascension works. Ascension, like for us, it won't just happen to like a few of humans. Like it's going to creep until it gets all of humanity. So it doesn't happen for everybody at the same time, but it does happen. But it's a longer process. So, but they were on their verge. I mean, it was time and it was going to happen. And then it just abrupted.
And so the 7 days took you to a level of consciousness of realizing what you and your son could achieve.
Yes.
And here you are on tonight's show explaining.
Well, one of the other thing that's very important, and this is probably going to happen to a lot of people, so you need to look this up. I've always known that this was happening to me. I've always accepted it. There were times where I was scared, I won't lie. And it took me a long time to get over fears. I had to work on that. And sometimes I still have to work on that, because the frequency exchange between an extraterrestrial and a human is so different than anything you ever experience. It's not what they look like for me. It is the frequency exchange. We are at a very local frequency. They're at a much higher frequency, and you feel that, and it engulfs you. And it's feelings that your brain does not understand. So most people will experience that fear or flight. You either run or you fight, because we grew up it's in our DNA from a long, long time ago when we were primitive beings. Everything around us was considered a predator. And that's what pops in our mind. We feel like we either fight or we run. So for me, I work on understanding the feeling and what it means in the experience and stay with it. It's a different feeling. It doesn't feel bad. And it's not necessarily scary, but it's something you don't understand. And it's hard for your brain to figure out what's going on. But for me, almost 3 years ago, maybe 2 years ago, I had what most people call is a Kundalini awakening. And it happened to me in the middle of the night. All of a sudden, my body jerked up from sleep, and I was sitting in an upright position, and my head was tilted up back, and I had like these surges go all the way through me, from my head all the way to the trunk of my back, all the way down, and then it would come out, and then I would lay back down, and it would pull me up and do this again. It did that 3 times. And it scared me to death. I did not know what it was. I was not a person that would sit around meditating all the time. I was not a person. I knew what meditation was, but I was not a person that sit around doing these things or was asking for anything. It just happened. And the interdimensionals and extraterrestrials gave me this Kundalini awakening, because in my case, I needed my subconscious to open up into my human conscious and help me remember who I am, my purpose here, look and find my inner self. And that was their way of assisting me, because I was having a hard time on my own. So it's called a Kundalini awakening. And I feel like a lot of people will probably experience this as we get closer and closer going through disclosure, and more people reaching higher conscious. I think they're going to experience this Kundalini awakening as well. And I hope that it's nothing to be scared of. I just didn't know what it was, so I hope people will look this up and have an understanding. So when it does happen to you, you'll understand what it is and what the meaning of it is. And it's not anything unpleasant. It's something beautiful that gives you higher intellectual, open-minded consciousness.
So a lot of folks have been doing the ayahuasca ceremonies, and toad and cactus, and other people have used the tulip, the plant, and have died from it.
Well,
others have used, using glue, sniffing. But
I remember that when I was we would catch kids in the paint stores sniffing glue when I lived in Australia. It was a terrible thing. But for me, when I was in Mexico, people there were doing mushrooms, and the indigenous people there, they had rituals where they did the mushrooms. But for me, the interdimensionals told me there was no need for me to do that because I don't need anything to put me to that state of being able to communicate. I'm constantly in that state as I am. I don't need any of that. Other people probably need it to get their consciousness relaxed, but I have direct contact. They've told me they hear everything I say. They know everything I do. And when I talk to them, and I do this every night, I say prayers to them and talk to them. I do not consider them gods. They are not gods, but I ask them for guidance and help me to present myself with clarity and with truthfulness and in a way for people to understand. So I do ask for guidance from them, but I know they're not gods. And they told me, we hear you every time. And they do hear a lot of us.
Very brilliant. Do they, when you say interdimensionally, is that interdimensionally in terms of belonging to a star system or another galaxy or another universe?
Yes. They live they come from a different dimension. And different dimensions have different names, of course, and we cannot visibly see these things, but they're there. It's kind of like there's some things that are like layered on different layers of dimensions. So they come through, and most of them, though, a long time ago, they originated from a planet, but now being billions of years ahead of us and traveling throughout many galaxies, many universes, looking for beings that are reaching higher consciousness and ready to ascend. That's what they're looking for, beings that are ready to be brought into the cosmic realm to reach that higher consciousness. So now they pretty much, a lot of them live in motherships. That's their home. And I'm talking big motherships. The ones that I have been on, when they come to get me, they always send 3 grays for me. And these are not like the grays that did abduction. These grays are hybrids designed by the tall grays and the interdimensionals. And one of them has bonded with me since birth. And she's always the one that comes to get me and takes me to craft. And as we're going to craft, the craft may look about half the size of a football field. But when we walk into the craft, everything changes. It is humongous. It's like walking into a different dimension or walking into a different world. Yeah. And also another thing, when I was young, especially when they would come to get me, the female gray that I'm bonded with, and she's a reddish brown color, she would run a scanner, a hand scanner, and run it from head to toe to head. And it would make me vibrate, and my body would vibrate. It never touched my body, but I could feel the vibrational. And I never understood what in the world was going on, except that I knew that after a few minutes, then my body would start to float up off the bed. And then when I would get to a certain point, then I would look around and see I was holding her hand. And then we would go through the roof or through a ceiling or through a door. And I never understood what in the world, how are they able to do this? Human beings cannot do this. We're in a 3D world. That is not physically, that just can't happen. But they explained to me when they were doing the vibrational scanning is that they were changing my frequency to their frequency so that when we traveled, I could do as they do. So they were changing my frequency. And this was something that was physically happening to me. When I would look down, my bed was empty, and I would be sitting there looking at her and her telepathically telling me everything's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. I mean, when you look at space, and there's like I'm looking at your background there, and
yeah,
obviously the viewers will be too. I mean, there's emptiness between galaxies and stars. So, I mean, you can see how an overlay would take place, filling that space, wouldn't you? You know, like that little story where the professor puts those marbles into a jar and says, "Have we filled the space?" And then we
Yeah.
find he keeps putting grains of sand in there, and then he can fill up with water. So there's always space within space within space, isn't it?
What they told me is it never ends. It goes on and on and on. It never ends. It's infinite. It's forever. Yeah, it's beautiful.
So now that you've, how long ago was it when you set up Time for Disclosure, the .com?
I guess it was, I lose track of time. I'm getting old. But I think maybe 5 years ago, I started all that. And it was just, putting my foot in the pond, so to speak, and, edging into it. And, and they told me, you'll know when the time is right. And I did. I finally, when I had that Kundalini awakening and all these things started flooding in, all this information and understanding who I am and my purpose and putting all the pieces together that I knew, but I didn't understand fully everything, but I do now. And I'm happier than I've ever been I know who I am, my purpose here. I know where I'm going after I leave here. And I know that our humanity, we have beautiful things to look forward to. They've showed me things. It's the greatest time to be alive, and we're all part of it. We are the disclosure. And it's just a magnificent, beautiful thing.
So growing up, and you would have watched the TV in the living room, whatever. Was there any shows that
we watched the Disney Channel a whole lot on Sunday nights? It used to come on Sunday nights, and we watched. Sometimes I would catch Star Trek or something like that, but not really, not a whole lot. I think I remember seeing Lost in Space a couple of times, but yeah, we would have, as a family, we would have conversations about, like riding between city to city, going out to eat on weekends. And we would have family conversations about, look at those beautiful stars. What do you think's out there? So I grew up in a family that liked the idea of knowing that there's things out there. But again, my family knew that I had a special interest, and I was encouraged not to talk about this. I was heavy into Girl Scouts and I played sports, and they told me you cannot talk about these things. I lived in the South, grew up in Tennessee, and now I live in Mississippi, and this is the Bible Belt of the South. And you have to be careful, when you start talking about things like this. So it's better than it used to be, but a lot of people just simply, they'll say that's demonic, but that's because their programming growing up, that's what they were told. And, they don't know any better. And so hopefully, with things changing, they'll become more open to these concepts and understand not every change in life is a bad thing. Some changes are beautiful and good things. Right. But I do know that a lot of people
Mississippi, yep, up there by Memphis.
Oh, I'm up here around where Elvis was born. Elvis Presley, yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
So in your I'll just pull them up. The Time Disclosure. So you got the website there, and then you've got your Facebook page. Is there any common theme that keeps repeating itself? I take it then as new people come on board, they're forever asking the same questions. I mean,
I don't mind. Every person asks different questions. For me, it started really at birth, but my first conscious memories of what I recall, it starts about 2 years old, and it was very friendly, and they made it fun and friendly. And then as I got into my teenage years and started realizing that I couldn't talk about these things to other people, then because of the programming of society, I became a little fearful. But they were patient with me and helped me to get through that. up into my 20s. And then when I got in my 20s, they started giving me more conscious time. And then also showing me that my children were also a part of this. So it's a family thing. And
Yeah.
it's made us very, very thick and very close knit. And, you know, we have great conversations and talks about things and have a better understanding of what it's like to be a human being. So, and that's the beautiful thing is through me, extraterrestrials have experience. And I'm not the only one. There's probably a million people like me that just have not woke up or are not ready to talk. But there's other ones like me here, and they're here for this reason, you know. And so we're very lucky that my sons and I, we have each other and we can talk about this and stuff. Not everybody does have someone that they could talk to. So that's why I think it's important that people know that there are organizations out there, outlets where you can get assistance and talk about things, because we don't always have somebody at home that we can talk to. So
Yeah, I'm hearing
not
that.
everybody wants to listen to what we have to say, you know?
Oh, I think that happens in all walks of life, isn't it? So
Yeah. But there's a lot of good things out there for people. And, you know, come to pretty much all, I belong to a lot of Facebook groups pertaining to anything to do with UFOs, ETs, anything like that. I belong to it. So they're all good. You know, you'll be able to tell pretty quick whether you like the room or not, but you can get it, you know, take it in small doses and get a taste of it and look around, and you'll find a little spot where you really enjoy and you can share and learn things. You know, there's a lot of things to learn. We've been denied a lot of things. So there's a lot of interesting things to learn.
Yeah, I noticed you talked about free energy and so forth, and
Yeah.
I'm sure the patent's office has got a lot of stuff that's sitting in there that could easily be opened up, and people
Yes.
could actually go through and set up cooperatives
And
to
I think
raise.
there's a lot of cures for diseases too, but you have to understand these elite people that manipulate and control our governments, they cannot make money off of healthy people. They make money off of unhealthy, lower intellect people, and that's where they want to keep us. But we are coming out of that shell. We are coming out full force, and we are going to reach our destination of becoming higher consciousness and realizing that we've been controlled and manipulated, and things are going to change for us. Things are going to change for the better.
Right. So you mentioned already that the poisoning of the water and the poisoning of the skies, which that'd be you're referring to cloud seeding, I would take it, which where the chemical compounds have been filtered through the air in order to say we're going to create rain. And of course, if they haven't created the rain, or if they have created the rain, those chemicals have actually now got into our agricultural land and also into our streams and into our aquifers. So
Exactly.
it becomes part of our food chain. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's why a lot of our fish and things, you know, there's mercury poisoning, there's just toxins in our oceans, toxins, the plastics that we use, you know, there's so many different things that are destroying our environment and disrupting the balance of nature. And we know these things, but certain people complain, but nothing ever gets done because these higher up elites are in control, manipulating these governments and legislative and people that try to make changes. They put a stop on them. So, you know, that's the biggest thing is once all of humanity wakes up and starts working together as one, there is no stopping us. There is no stopping us. Once we all realize we're all connected and we come together and we say no more. And that's what it's going to take.
2 weeks ago, we had a lady, named Bronwyn Holm, Earth Foods. So if you see the show 2 weeks ago, she talks about a product that her grandfather created, and it's got microbes in it. So it actually rejuvenates the soil and rejuvenates the plants as well. So very compelling show with regards to realizing that the cloud seeding it's impacted on our agricultural and also our animal herds as well. So obviously it's come through the food chain. So yeah, the microbes. So it can lay in a state of recess until for 10 years or more. Then you can open it up and you can mix it with 1 litre of this earth food with 60 litres of water, and then you can put it on your agricultural property or land or on your plants. Yeah, so just a token gesture. Doesn't need, obviously it's organic, and its philosophy, I would suggest, it's not chemical-based pesticides or herbicides. So yeah, I would say that the teachers are coming, and they're all being placed on different parts of the planet. And it's just a matter of now that the internet's brought people together into a human classroom that's now available for people to access the teacher wherever they live and domicile. It's only the time zones, isn't it? That's why we haven't got our Andrina here for tonight's show. It's well past midnight for her. But is there any questions there that you'd like to throw up? That would be,
I want to say this. I think people need to know this. Extraterrestrial beings, all extraterrestrial beings, negative or positive. And when I say negative, they're not demonic. They are not demonic. They were looked at maybe as being, but that's because they did not care the impact of their actions, how we interpreted it. And I think a lot of it was out of fear. We made a lot of, speculations, but that's neither here or there. It did happen. But they are all have souls, and they believe in creator source. So when I say creator source, that is different than what we call God, but it is creator source. And for them, creator source is the creator of all things, all universes, all galaxies, all everything. So, when you hear stories about them stealing souls and things like that, that's not true. They have their own souls, and they can, when they pass away, they can experience being the same extraterrestrial, or they can come back and experience a human life, or they can experience being a dog or a dolphin, and from what I've been told, that's basically what we do too. We can reincarnate into whatever we want if everything is in agreement with the elders. So they are not demonic. They are loving, benevolent beings, and they have souls.
I mean, a lot of those Indigenous people have their medicine men and women who could shapeshift, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know much about that kind of stuff, to be honest with you, but I do know anything's possible. I know that extraterrestrials can be in this room with me right now, and I would never know it. I know that, because they could land a ship right in here, and it could be hanging halfway out my house, but I wouldn't see it in my 3D with my 3D vision, but they could be here. And I also know that they've done things like in front of me, like take my clock hand and turn it around just to let me know that they were there. And I also know that sometimes they can take an image from my head, and it's an image in my head that I'm comfortable with. So that's what I will see. They don't change into that image, but that will be the image that I see. And they can have a conversation with me if I'm in a situation to where they're like concerned about, can she handle this right now or not? I know that they can do these things, and they're very, very cautious about, unlike the ones that did abductions that did not care, interdimensionals and positive extraterrestrials, they care what we think. They don't want to frighten us. They don't want to, they want to be patient and give us the room and time we need to adjust. So.
Right. Okay. Very brilliant. Thank you very much. Well, hang on, before you go, what about time travel? Is there anything that's come through on your Facebook page and your website?
I see people talking about that all the time. I know that I have seen what I think possibly maybe was a grandchild from the future come down in a spacecraft and swirl around in my backyard here where I live and come to a complete halt and make eye contact with me and my oldest son. So I think that was one of my grandchildren that, was just letting us. There's been things that at the time that it happened, I had no clue what it all meant. Now I understand, I understand what was happening. But it took the Kundalini awakening for me to finally put all these pieces together and understand a whole lot. So, but yeah. So I know they are billions of years ahead of us. Our physics does not apply to them. Our wordage, what we call them, none of that is what they call each other. They do not use fuel to travel. They use consciousness, and they can bend time and space, and they use their craft are living physical beings. They have a consciousness, and a pilot who is trained to be he can fly the craft. That's why we can't fly any of their craft, because we're not able to. We have not ever even reached that highest level of consciousness where they can interact with a mind-to-mind work, the craft and the pilot, and they can think where they want to go, and then bam, they go.
Well, it has been thrown in our faces. I mean, Clint Eastwood was in that movie Firefox, where they went and knocked off that fig from the Ural Mountains. So we've seen that, and then we've seen Stargate, where the Atlantean gene, he can drive the craft and so forth. We've seen, in terms of consciousness, who else used to do it as well?
That's one thing. Everything is evolving around us reaching higher consciousness, and us understanding we are not alone, and we have never been alone.
They just throw it out there, don't they? Little signposts, aren't they, to say, you can. Have you thought about doing this? And it'll trigger a response to think, oh, okay, you can do that. This biological craft. I mean, in the Star Trek Next Generation, there was a traveler who could put his hand on the and down the engine room there, and he took him through to the space where it was all done by thought.
Do you remember the series Project Blue Book? And they took the psychic women twins that were like in their 50s, and they put them in the craft and tried to get them to be able to do it, and they could not. They died in the process. They could not do it. So I believe that they've tried. I'm sure they've tried everything, but they cannot fly a conscious craft of theirs.
Well, then we come back into the spiritual world of the Merkaba vehicle, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, bloody brilliant. Okay, well, anything else we should be talking about, love? I mean, I thought it was all going to be a bit more about. Yeah. I thought might be more about UFO activity all over the United States, but it's really not that at all. It's about
this is a worldwide phenomenon. This is about the whole world. This is not about me. This is not about the United States. This is not about any particular countries or anything. This is humanity. They are focused on reaching humanity. They are using me and others like me to reach humanity. And that is what I'm focused on, is reaching the world and letting you know the truths, and letting you know and answer questions, that kind of thing.
Yeah, it's a conscious disclosure. I understand. Oh, buddy, brilliant. I really appreciate you coming on, and
thank you.
Yeah, buddy, and let's keep in touch, eh?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Love your work. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Have a great one.
Yeah. All right. Very brilliant. Thank you.